Hello and welcome. My name's Jeffrey Johnson and we're studying how to preach. I want to take us back into the Old Testament this time. And some years ago I heard my favourite preacher, Bob Boots, deliver a message on David's mighty men. Their accomplishments are listed in 2 Samuel in chapter 23. There's one in particular that caught my attention, and his name is Shammah. Let me reiterate once again. It's very, very important that you know what it is you want to say. Well, Bob was speaking to a small group of people. It was a small audience of about 25 people who were planting a church. I was there because I was interested in the work of that church. And he stood up and he said a very simple statement which just went like electricity through the audience. He said, God can do great things with small people. He can do great things with this little group of people who are here today. It was almost a prophetic word, but we all stood up and we took notice. And then, of course, he began to talk about Shammah. He talked about the fact that Shammah, there's no history of him. His father's name doesn't mean anything very powerful at all. And the fact that Shammah defended a lentil field. And you wonder why. Why didn't he defend a palace, or a cathedral, or a temple, or a military installation, or a great city? He defended a very, very insignificant thing. Well, it wasn't insignificant for the person who owned it. It was their business. And then, of course, he went on to talk about the fact that Shammah performed a miracle. He said that this was right up there with Samson. It was right up there with Moses going through the Red Sea. It was a miracle that wreaked destruction upon the enemies of God's people. And so I need to emphasize this. Work out what it is you want to say. Look at your passage of Scripture. Look at where it's going. Look at what it's saying. And then write down in 10 or 12 words. You don't want to say 2 things. You don't want to say 3 things. You need to leave your audience with one central thought. And it needs to come from the Scriptures. You can't impose it upon them. And you yourself need to feel passionate. You need to look at your congregation and believe what it is you're saying. And that will come through. Bob stood there. He looked us in the eyes and he said, it is possible. God could do great things with this little church.